you check the children.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
Here to do another patron-requested review. This one is from Kanan Becker. Thank you very much,
Shout
Kanan.
out.
This is a movie that I quite enjoy. I watched it the first time in the theater. I really liked it then. I rewatched it because of this request, and I really liked it now as well. So I know there are some silly aspects of the movie, but it doesn't stop me from fully enjoying this. We're talking about the M. Night Shyamalan produced Devil.
Yes.
So, what year was this from?
This was from 2010, and it was also, so he didn't write the screenplay for this one, unfortunately, but it was his short story that he allowed to be adapted and produced and everything, and it was directed by Jonathan Eric Dowdle, but this guy, when we looked at his, stream of stuff that he had done, I mean, there was As Above, So Below, Poughkeepsie Tapes, Quarantine, so some very solid stuff to his repertoire, which is cool.
Yeah, and honestly, this one is just, it's a rumination, but it's a thriller. It's something along the lines of Phone Booth with Colin Farrell because it's largely one location.
And it's also in Pennsylvania because, it was written
Philadelphia,
by
of course. Yeah, it's in Philly. But yeah, so this movie starts off with a mysterious body falling from the sky, and it turns out that it's a suicide that supposedly heralds the arrival of the devil on our planet. And we meet all of these characters at the beginning of the film that all get onto an elevator together. There's a man with a mystery who ends up going on to be, he might even be the guy in Upgrade, if I'm not mistaken.
Logan Marshall Green, I think, is the guy that we're mentioning, but
maybe
there's a lot of familiar faces in this film. Yep, Logan Marshall Green, you were totally right.
And he's Upgrade, right?
Yep, he is definitely Upgrade. Yep, and so there's a lot of peeps. He was also in Spider-Man Homecoming, various other things. There's a lot of familiar faces of people who were working or just starting their sort of visibility within the late 2000s, early 2010s. I know they call them, there's aughts is like a name out there.
But there's there's I think 5 people total in there.
There's an old woman in there.
Old woman, young woman, this guy, a kind of douchey guy, and then I thought one more person as well. Oh yeah, the security guard, played by another character actor that we've seen a ton of times.
Yep.
So yeah, there's 5 people in the elevator, and one at a time they slowly start to be killed off by someone in the elevator.
Yep,
and
because there's the flash out of the lights because they're stuck.
Yeah, they all get in this elevator and it gets stuck, right? So now the security guards or the guys watching the security feeds, they have to figure out how and help these people out of the elevator. Yeah. One of them is of Hispanic descent and starts to realize that this is all a classic setup for an arrival of the devil. He finds out, based on the detective that is hired or that is brought in to investigate the suicide that came from this building. And so he finds out about this elevator full of stuck people, and basically someone in the elevator is the devil, and they're trying to figure out who. Yeah. And it's such a fun, I love premises like this, and maybe that's why I'm an easy target for it. I Trapped the Devil when we watched that a few years ago.
Yep, I've seen Midnight, shout out.
I love movies about the devil incarnate. I just really do. Except for the Omen movies, I think those trip over themselves. But these are such clean representations, and they don't need to be deeper than one movie. So I just really enjoy this movie. I enjoy the execution of it, and all of it ties into a much more personal story of the detective by the end, without spoiling. So I just really dig this movie.
Yeah, it was the aspect of the detective so we get at the very beginning, the aspect of his affliction and, the grief and the guilt and all of that stuff. And it is tied in, dare I say, masterfully with how things resolve themselves to, well, if you want to consider it that. But the small, very claustrophobic, tense sort of whodunit situation. I like mysteries. I do, where you're trying to figure out who the hell the killer is and what is going on.
Especially simple ones like this that don't need to jump to a million locations.
Yeah, where it's very confined. I mean, this is the epitome of the elevator pitch of and where you could make something for a very small amount of money that could be incredibly effective, provided you had good performances. And since we've kind of touched on story and overall thoughts, I think that's a good segue into performance and the acting is because everybody, even though there's each one is a relatively stereotypical character to a degree, everybody plays their part pretty impeccably, I must say. I mean, the old woman is as you would expect, and then asshole guy who's like, I have to get to this and whatever, and time is money and all that crap.
Well, and the old woman is played largely by a comedic actress from TV and stuff like that. So.
I mean, I recognize her, that's for sure, but I feel like some of the goofiness was more so a deliberate thing from the scripting and something kind of shoehorned in from the director, perhaps. I mean, since it's been a hot minute since I watched this, I'm not going to make any proclamations in that regard, but everything that I do recall is that just the tension and the mystery. I know some people kind of dissed on the runtime, the fact that it was shorter. I don't know if you necessarily needed to draw it out.
It works in its favor, because, well, I mean, all these people start to die on the elevator, so the people on the elevator clearly have no choice but to think that one of them is killing them.
Yeah.
And so the tensions rise with every new body. There's bite marks and all kinds of crazy shit that happen along the way, and it is a tense, tension-building exercise that just, I think, plays it off and has a very successful... satisfying ending for sure.
Yeah, and also the relatability of the fact that if you found yourself caught in this sort of situation, you don't even have to put the demonic aspect into it to make this a scary situation that you as a viewer could relate to. If you got stuck in with 5 other people or 4 other people, whatever, in an elevator, and you didn't know when the hell you were going to get out, and somebody was getting stir crazy enough that they were killing other people, or maybe it's not just one person doing it. You just don't know. And so that sort of believable real-world scenario, even if you just, wipe away the otherworldly aspect, is still effective for this film, I think.
Honestly, this is seriously one of my favorite subgenres of horror. There's machinations the whole way, and you finally get the devil reveal.
You do.
Briefly at the end.
So there is at least payoff.
I Trap the Devil. Yeah. Same even with The Devil's Advocate. With Al Pacino, like all that, and the devil reveal is in the last reel of the movie, and it's like I love
Devil Zone and every other film with the
End of
title
Days, End of Days, Gabriel Byrne, devil reveal in the end with the big massive devil demon thing. Like I love movies like this. The devil personified is such a fertile ground for horror movies. And I still think the most simple yet unique and enjoyable idea is I Trap the Devil. But this is one of those that caught my attention early on with this kind of thing.
And that's something I didn't mention early, is that I did not see this when it first came out. I watched it specifically for Kanan, right?
Kanan Becker, yeah.
Kanan Becker, exactly. And so for that reason, I'm super stoked that I was...
this was your first time watching it. I did not even put that together. Wow.
Yep. It was one that...
So were you hit by the ending, or was it cheesy for you? Because again, you're watching it 10 years after it came out.
I was hit by the ending because of some things in my personal life,
It involves drunk driving and
not even that specifically.
It's actually, the story isn't far off of Midnight Mass's character.
Just like alcoholism,
that character is pretty much the character from Midnight Mass when you think about it, the character that was in the elevator.
Well, that's a little bit of a spoiler, I suppose, but yeah, I mean, I guess you find out at the beginning of the movie.
If you know Midnight Mass, maybe, so, sorry, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but how, the bottle is fun, but it's definitely one of those that you have to be very careful about in a lot of ways. And so for that reason, that really was the plight and the core of the film. Even though, the
production design, though, is amazing. The filmmaking is amazing, considering it's people trapped on an elevator. You get that claustrophobic feel when you need to, but you get the opened up feel when you need to. It's just a very well told story, honestly.
Yeah, with the shot selection within the elevator, it could have come off as very pedestrian and amateurish, but it gave you space as a viewer when you needed it, and then it also gave you that just confinement and the fear involved at other times too. And that's where I feel like the cutting of the lighting, you know,
Yeah,
at
the
times.
editing.
It was the edits in that regard were really what just upped the tension as well.
So effects-wise, the effects were all good. There's very little digital manipulation except for just a couple of moments.
Not a lot of scenes
Otherwise,
that dictated.
it's
yeah.
largely, you know, practical makeup effects and things like that. There's not even a ton of effects overall,
Yeah.
but the movie is still highly effective without those effects.
Yeah, truly. But yeah, in that regard, this is where I find these sort of psychological thrillers so intriguing because it is that grounded and it is very. It very much hinges upon the believability of the performance of everybody in this small little ensemble that are trapped together. And so that's another nod that you have to give to the director for getting good performances out of these people in what I can't really say that this is, and you know, some may perceive this as, oh, it's easy to make a movie like this because it's only a few characters, because it's like, no, without getting that sort of cohesion amongst all of them and having a solid enough premise and execution, you're going to fail miserably.
And how are you gonna? You have to make sure you're shooting. If the whole movie is people in an elevator, how do you keep that interesting for an hour and a half? Whereas you get new locations in most movies all along the way to help change up the visual style. This is an elevator the whole time, so you have to be.
There's a little bit of the
you know.
exterior, but that's
Yeah,
where
some.
Yeah, but that's where I am not with the people who criticize the runtime. It's like I think Phone Booth, which you mentioned, the Schumacher movie, that was another relatively short film as well. You don't want to overstay your welcome. You don't want to bore your audience with the concept. And so, you know, lean and mean sometimes makes the most sense with a premise like this.
Exactly. So yeah, guys, I don't know what else we can really say about this without spoiling it. So I'm going to go ahead and call
there's
the
stuff to
review
spoil.
there. Yeah, that's going to do it for our review of Devil. Again, if you haven't seen this, I think it's very much worth your time. There's a couple silly bits. The bit with the toast is just dumb. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a Murphy's Law poster is what he's referring to, not anything spiritual or godly. But everything else in the movie is pretty enjoyable outside
Weird
of just a couple of dumb
discussion. Anyway.
moments. So it's just a really good movie. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to Kanan for requesting it. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel directly the way that you do. We greatly appreciate each and every single one of you guys.
Most stuff.
Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias, I mean Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.